Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our Wednesday night show with OVIS and the OVIS community. We have named the show tonight OVIS It, and we will explain throughout the duration of the show what that means, and you'll get a better idea of what that means, and actually a better appreciation of what that means once we all introduce ourselves and talk about our motivation behind creating the OVIS community. My name is Elsa Ramon. I am a former television news anchor and reporter. I spent 21 years working for all the networks in various parts of the country before I decided to leave legacy network television and branch out on my own and start to cover the blockchain, Bitcoin, and everything under that umbrella and bring you the future and the stories that we have, and especially through our baby that we like to call OVIS and the OVIS community. I'd like to bring on our panel that we have with us tonight because these are some very important people who are part of the OVIS community. They're not just community members, but we are all in some way part of building OVIS. I am a co-founder. Tracy is a co-founder, and we have other people here who are in other capacities building OVIS. But we wanted to take the opportunity tonight to let you know, first of all, that normally we don't have a Wednesday night show. We started out having a Sunday night show, and for about the past month and a half, right, guys, we've been doing a Sunday night show between 6 and 7 o'clock on our Zap Life platform. That is our live platform partner called Zap Life. And we've been inviting members of the community, whether they be professors or people involved in politics, to discuss areas of fact-checking. We fact-checked the 1994 crime bill, which was brought up during the election, before the November election. We've talked about the impact of deep fake videos and what they've had on social media. We've talked about fake news, misinformation, disinformation, and we've had guests on to explore all those opportunities. So our Sunday night show has become a way to kind of explore that idea and that topic. Tonight, we've added a Wednesday night show, and we will going forward because we've been steadily growing viewership, and we thought it'd be great to offer another alternative for people who maybe can't always make it with us Sunday night. Now they have a chance to make it with us on Wednesday night. But tonight, we decided not to have a guest because we wanted you to get the opportunity to know who we are, the people behind OVIS, because we're not just a company providing a product. Yes, we want you to like this product. We want you to be a part of this product and a part of this community. But we felt it was better for you to know the people behind that project so that you know our motivation. So I told you that I spent 21 years working for all of the networks as a television anchor and reporter. And now this is my mission. OVIS and OVIS.news is one of my missions because all of us have experience in either politics, television news, print, or some kind of media that we felt was necessary to bring all of us together so that you have a place to go to find accurate, verified news without all of that other stuff clouding it that you see today, the misinformation, disinformation, and so on. So I would like to introduce you to some of the other people who are making OVIS and OVIS.news possible. I'd like to introduce you to Tracy Grant. She is also a co-founder of OVIS, and she also has an extensive background in print and television journalism. And I want you to know her motivation behind bringing you the community and the news and information you deserve. So Tracy, please tell us about yourself.
Thanks, Elsa. Yes, I started out in print at the Boston Globe, and then I moved into TV. I worked in Boston, in Hartford, Connecticut, in Orlando, and then I came here to San Francisco in 2002. I always dreamed of being a reporter because I was always, I always sort of say, you know, I was a nosy kid. But we can also say that I was, you know, I was just curious. But I was always asking people questions. I wanted to know everything that was going on. And when I was a little kid, someone told me, oh my God, you ask so many questions, you're going to grow up to be a reporter. And that's what happened. Essentially, I realized, oh, somebody's going to pay me to ask these questions. I'll do it. And it was my dream. But I have to say, as time went by in some of these places where I worked, especially in television, I started to realize that that dream job, where I was asking questions and telling stories and putting the truth out there, that was sort of fading away. That's kind of not what the job was anymore. I was often being asked to have a certain angle in the way that the stories were told. Sometimes even if it wasn't quite accurate, the story, that it actually might not fit the story the way that they wanted me to tell it, might not have been what the story really was, which made me uncomfortable. Often I would go out and do stories, and in the beginning of my career, people would walk up and say, "Oh my God, you're from the news. This is great." And the tide started to turn. People eventually would see us with our camera and me with my microphone and say, "Oh God, you're from the news. We don't want you here." And that was very sad, because I felt like this honorable job that I was doing and that I'd always worked toward was no longer so honorable. People were looking at it in a way that that was not kind, and I understood it to some extent. Even though I was striving hard to do the job in an honorable way, not everyone else was, and not every TV station was doing the same. So I got it. I understood why some people fought back when we would show up to ask questions and to do stories. And ultimately, I didn't want to be part of that anymore. The media, the corporate media, as people would constantly remind me that I was part of the corporate media. So I thought, gosh, there's got to be a way for me to do the job that I originally wanted. I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to tell the truth. And we had moved really far away from that. So ultimately, I was told about OVIS by the CEO of OVIS, who I've known for a really long time. And when he told me about this project, it made me really excited, because I thought, that's it. That's how I can get back to doing the kind of journalism I always strive to do. And that's how we can get the people out there to start believing that there is an option for them. They don't have to watch Fox News or CNN or even local TV stations where they feel somewhat uncomfortable about the information that's being given to them. They'll know that there's somewhere that they can turn to be able to really get the truth, where they can OVIS it.
Tracy, yeah, and I will echo some of the same sentiment you have. It became increasingly aware over, especially the last 5 to 7 years, whether I was out covering a story or maybe at an event as a guest MC, that I could see how people were starting to feel about the news, whether they were conditioned by being told that we're fake news, or seeing for themselves the quality of things and stories that we began to cover. The thing for me that really changed it over the last 5 to 7 years was the fact that I felt like most of the things that we were sent to cover, either the crews in our newscast or me personally, were becoming increasingly insignificant. We were chasing rain or a tree down. And here in Los Angeles, as you know, the last TV station I worked at was a CBS station here in Los Angeles. We did an inordinate amount of car chases, and it would completely take over an entire newscast where reporters had worked on stories that were important within the community because a car chase was on. I started to become embarrassed about the things we were covering and how we were covering them, and why we even gave attention to some of these things that we knew in our hearts as journalists were just ridiculous, but have become clickbait. And we all grew to know that over time, we saw the money and the resources shrink for the newsroom and people like us who would gather the news and do the stories that were important in the community. The reason why we got into this business in the first place. because we needed to make sure that the shareholders and the corporate execs were taken care of financially. So the pool of money would be drawn from us and given to the higher ups. And we would take the blame for the types of things we would cover and the clickbait we would chase because of the appeasement we needed to do for the upper echelon of the corporation or the company. So we got blamed a lot, right? So when we were out doing stories, we had people either scream fake news or what is it, a slow news day, or you guys don't cover any good news, or, you know, and I like you.
Sometimes it felt like we were I felt like we were going to be burned at the stake if you showed up and there was a crowd there, you know, and you showed up with the camera. Sometimes they turned on you and you thought, oh my gosh, this is bad.
Yeah. Yes, and as of late, of course, that we saw that grow, that sentiment grow among people in the community, and I saw, you know, and validated some of their feelings on that. On the other hand, too, I saw some of the hype that they were also buying into. So it turned out to be a perfect storm for those of us who started out to want to help people and find justice and right wrongs. I mean, that's the whole point of what we do, and to bring accurate and truthful information to people that will really help them. So, you know, that's our motivation for being behind OVIS and creating OVIS. You know, Tracy, you and I, except for your print experience, which I don't have, you know, both come from television news, and we saw a lot of that happen in television news. Michael Filson, also, you knew personally before I knew you two, because you both worked in the San Francisco Bay Area and worked for a network in the Bay Area too. And Michael was a photojournalist, a photographer who is also a journalist. They are not just people who run the camera and set up our live shots and shoot stories. They are journalists as well, because they have to be able to see the story in order to be able to tell the story in pictures. And he has a motivation too, which some of them are similar to mine and yours, Tracy. But Michael has had his own experience too in the media as well, and what drove him to become a co-founder in OVIS.
And I'll ask you to throw back to me, since I have some audio in here. Can we come back to the photographer? I mean, the camera will wait.
Yes, absolutely. Michael Filson, former photojournalist of I don't know how many years. All of us, multiple years. You know what? I don't think we've ever added up the number of years between us all that we have in media. I mean, I have 21 years, Tracy.
A century.
I
have 20.
Me, you, and Michael, I think we easily have 60 plus years just between us three. But anyway, Michael Filson, photojournalist, spent several decades in television news. He knows why we're doing OVIS. This is why he's part of OVIS. And I'd love you to tell people, Michael, why you're here and some of the motivating factors for creating our company.
There are many reasons why I'm here. The main reason is I'm a believer in democracy, and in a democracy, you need to have a free press. And if you don't have a free press, you can't get accurate information. This is my first camera. This is a Brownie Hawkeye, a lot like my mother's that I got as a kid. And I took my first photos when I was four.
Wow.
But it wasn't until long after college that I became a photojournalist, and I could realize the difference that showing a community its own image would mean to the self-esteem and the involvement of the local voters in their community. So yeah, that's why I'm part of OVIS. You know, it's truth in journalism, it's accuracy in journalism, and it's reaching out to our communities.
I mean, without we can't have a functioning democracy without the free press, and that is threatened right now. But we all also recognize as members of the press why. And these are definitely valid concerns that people had, and valid concerns that have been growing over the last 5+ years. which is why we all kind of struggled the last few years when we worked for legacy media, because this was our passion. This is what we set out to do. And we gave our heart and soul and time and sacrifice to it. What else could we find that we could do, that we could pour that much into, that much dedication and devotion into? And it wasn't until I discovered blockchain technology and cryptocurrency and everything that comes with it that all of us kind of led all of us to each other to create OVIS News, because we use that technology, right, to reach our objective, which is bringing people accurate and fair news and a focus again on democracy. So Michael, thank you for bringing that up, because that's an important part of what we do at OVIS. Another very important part of what we do in our community, which sets us apart from any other newsroom or news organization that we know of within our country and maybe even globally, is the fact that we are building a dedicated fact-checking community with OVIS. You don't see that in a lot of newsrooms. There are, levels of management that look over the work and give approval, but we didn't ever have a dedicated set of fact checkers. Well, OVIS, we do, and we are hoping to grow that community. Our very first fact checker and our chief fact checker in the OVIS community is Karam Enal. And if you've been joining us for our Sunday night shows, you know that we always start out our Sunday night shows before we get to our guests with Karam and discuss the topic of the night a little bit and flush it out before we get to our guest. Karam is probably the most important part and is going to lead the most important part and differentiating part of our company, which is the community of fact checkers. So Karam, thank you for joining us again tonight. Always appreciated to have you on, and we always learn something when you're here with us. But I want people to know about you and how you got into the business of fact checking, so much so that you actually studied it and you've dedicated your studies and much of your life to the art of fact checking and what goes into it.
Yeah, sure. Hi, good to be here. So I kind of got into fact checking during my graduate studies at CUNY, where I got a social journalism degree. And there I kind of got into all this whole fact checking, verification, and verification world, where I saw that there's a lot of misinformation going on. And me being an anthropology major, I was really interested in the culture of that, and why people were spreading the misinformation, how they were spreading it, and what the online conversations were. So that's how I kind of got into this social listening, verification, and fact-checking world, which I'm currently in, and I'm hoping to create a nice community here at OVIS. So yeah, and that's kind of my story.
But I didn't know, even as many years as I spent as a journalist, that the fact-checking community and people like you actually not only rely on studies and studying all the facets of fact-checking, like the psychology behind it and what goes on into things like misinformation and disinformation, and not only that, but how to spot it and how to spot things like deep fakes and bots and things like that are plaguing our social media that help spread this information to people that further, degrades the news that they're getting when they go online. But I mean, I really didn't realize that there are books dedicated to this and actual courses and lifelong learning behind this.
Absolutely. There's studies, there are courses, there are books. There's everything you can imagine for people to learn more about fact checking. And the key part in fact checking is to get the public to learn about fact checking. It's not about us learning, it's about for people to learn, because that's the way we can stop the spread of misinformation. That's the way we can actually get the real information out there, by explaining to the people what the information is and how they can spot the truth when they need to. So yeah, there are a lot of courses, a lot of study that goes into it. So you have to learn a lot about why this stuff is happening, the culture about it. The online conversations are always important. Trying to understand, try to gauge who will say what online. And, it's a whole process. And yeah, it's a very important one in journalism.
All right, Karam, and we've told you many times, Karam, that you and your community of fact checkers, as it grows, is really going to be the backbone of our community, because without you guys, checking things not only for the reporters who write stories and then rely on you, the fact checkers, to check their work before it's published and given out to our community members. I mean, without you, there just isn't us. And we take pride in that being the distinguishing factor and what we're being able to offer people when they come to our community to find news that's accurate and completely free of all of that other stuff that's plaguing social media right now. So, Karam, thank you so much. I'm going to ask you to stand by because I want to go to Ariel Mercado, who's been so patiently waiting while we're in our fancy little 6-box screen here in our little disco room right now. By the way, we're having fun tonight with the music and the slate and the graphics. The slate is the little picture you see behind us with the fun colors and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and the lights and all that kind of fun stuff.
Michael,
yes, Michael, our photojournalist, and who now wears the hat of technical operations and director and everything in between. We wanted you to step into our world tonight and have fun and know that moving forward, we're like that. We're going to be offering things for you to learn more about us. But Ariel's been so patiently waiting while we all kind of talk about our backgrounds and what we do, where we came from, what our motivation is. But Ariel brings a unique perspective to and a unique experience to OVIS because he has a deep background in politics, which you had to have been under a rock or just completely not paying attention. But for the last 8 years, it kind of seems like things have reached a fever pitch in the last 2 election cycles. And it's driven really people who just want information crazy out there. So Ariel, please tell us about yourself and your motivation in getting involved.
Oh, thank you, Elsa. My name is Ariel Mercado. I've been in public affairs and community stakeholder engagement for about professionally probably for the last 20 years. Represented public agencies, member of Congress, a senior member of Congress, as well as a government, a city. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about the work that I do when you deal with community stakeholders and representing these agencies is that I'm not just representing the people that I work for, but also when I engage with the community, I'm representing the people that I'm engaging with and their questions and their concerns to the organizations or agencies that I represent. And so I see myself as a conduit of information. And part of that, and you do stakeholder development, one of the things that's nice when you start working with folks in the community or people that want to get involved and make a difference is that's really the fundamental baseline for everybody, regardless of where they are in the political spectrum. People that tend to get involved or want to make it, they want to make a difference and they want to make the world a better place. And if you can get to that baseline, then oftentimes you can overcome political differences because now what you need is factual information, good information that you know that's true, so that way you can have a discussion to get to that place where people want to improve their communities or want to improve policy or want to improve things out there in the world for their kids, for their families, or for themselves. And for me, when the founder Linton approached me about this, because we worked together, this to me was an amazing opportunity to be I was flattered to be part of the team of OVIS, to be the inaugural team lead, to work on this, to engage stakeholders, to answer their questions and have them get involved. The inaugural group is really an important group because they're going to help us shape what this means in truth in journalism and truth in general, and how that affects almost decisions that we make and the perspectives that we have regarding whether it be the world, whether it be politics, whether it be information even about yourself, and so so much misinformation that's out there, and to be part of something that's going to help try to establish truth back in journalism and factual information, to me was such an exciting opportunity.
Isn't it? I mean, just hearing that, knowing that people are going to have a place to go, including ourselves, to make sure that we know what we're reading, watching, viewing, whatever it is going to be accurate and free of all that other stuff that's really been plaguing us for quite a long time in traditional media. So one of the ways we do that, there are a couple of ways, but I'll go over those quickly, and we can all just kind of chime in. So what makes it possible for us to be able to do this? What makes it possible for us to kind of weed out that misinformation and disinformation and make sure that the news that people are reading on our site and the information they're getting on our site has been validated and is accurate? Well, we're using blockchain technology, and this is a word that you've probably heard more and more of over the last couple of years because it's the technology that serves as the sort of railroad for another term you have probably heard before, which is Bitcoin. But the technology underlying Bitcoin, people are finding, is valuable in so many ways because it's immutable, which means the information that goes on the blockchain cannot be changed at all. It cannot be modified and it cannot be changed. So once information is validated and verified and goes on the blockchain, that's it. It lives forever and cannot be changed, and it cannot be reversed. And that's one of the things that's really important in our community, using that to get news on the blockchain, because we know once it makes it on there, that's it. It's clean and it's without all of that other noise that you hear on social media and various other types of media. So we're relying on a technology that has not been hacked in its 11 years of existence since Bitcoin was introduced. And now because of that, because of its immutability, and because it is a distributed ledger and relies on trust and consensus of operating systems that are connected to it all over the world, we are relying on that technology to validate what we bring you. And to our knowledge, at this point, no other news organization is doing that. That's just one of our main features. I would say our fact checkers are our main feature, of course. But if we're talking about technology, blockchain technology is our underlying strength. And we are going to rely on that as the community grows to make sure that anything that makes it onto that technology lives forever and is validated. So one of the other things that we rely on is tokenization. And you guys, please feel free to chime in, because I know, I don't want to be the only one telling us about our community and some of the features that are really important to us. But we use a token curated registry, and basically it's tokenization. That's another word you've probably heard thrown around over the last couple of years because other industries are looking into it as well, like blockchain. So anyone wants to jump in and talk about tokenization and why that plays a role?
One of the factors that factors into journalism is journalists have this really pesky behavior that we call that they need to eat. And the economy, the way it's currently structured, pays that money into their employer and large corporations. And usually that money doesn't stop at the local newsroom. It heads on its way out of town. With our blockchain model and using tokenization, not only do we have a registry, but we have an economy of tokens, which allows users to collect tokens and use tokens to vote on stories, which allows the public or our members, our user group, to determine what stories they want covered. By paying into a pool of an area of interest, they create a bounty, which then can be recovered by the journalist to cover that story by using tokens.
And that journalist too, in turn, like if I were writing stories on our platform, I would use some of my tokens to pay a fact checker of my choice in our community to make sure that my story is accurate and fact check and everything is perfect before I actually publish that story. So then I would pay the fact checker a little bit of my tokens to give me that service. So all of us in some way or another, whether you're just a consumer and want to make sure you get your news that's been verified or that's accurate on our platform, you'll spend a little bit of your tokens. You'll, if you feel like it, pick a reporter to maybe cover an issue you care about. You have a say in what's covered, not a corporate media company or a legacy media company. You, as a member, get the luxury of being able to pick journalists that are in our community, pick fact checkers in our community to check something you're curious about, or have a reporter cover a story that's important to you or your community. And that's how it works. So we're all able to kind of support each other through this token curated registry. And if you feel like it as a community member or a journalist or a fact checker, you can also create a vote. You can set up a vote saying who here in this community wants to see a story about, say, cats. You have a vote open to the community, and if a large portion of the community, if the consensus is people want to see a story about that, then your story will be covered. There's the possibilities are endless on the platform, and everyone is incentivized through the token curated registry. We could talk about this all night, but I will say that is just a highlight of how the TCR works. You can always go to our website at ovis.news, because we do have information that'll help you learn what it's all about and how a token curated registry works and how blockchain works and all of that technology that's incorporated into our community, and making sure that you're getting absolutely perfect and accurate information from our community. Which brings me to the point of why we decided to call tonight's show just OVIS It. Because we are hoping that at some point, once our fact-checking community is validated and it grows, because there are going to be some parameters that the fact checkers are going to have to fit, and there are going to be some tests they're going to have to pass to become OVIS approved fact checkers in the community. Same with journalists. You can become a journalist on the platform, but you're going to have to go through the tests to make sure that you are able to accurately report for our OVIS community. But we want to get to a point, once our community has grown, whether you're a consumer, fact checker, or journalist, and this isn't just going to be within the United States, by the way, we are going to grow this globally, that anyone who wants to come into the community, say, I found a picture on the internet and it passed around crazy and everyone's saying this is what it is. Well, something inside me says I trust it. I take it to OVIS, have fact checkers, use some of my tokens to have the fact checkers check the validity of this picture that I'm concerned about, and they come back and say yay or nay. We'll be able to say, I OVIS'd it, and I was able to verify that what you're seeing here in this picture is either valid or not valid, whether it's a picture or video or a printed story or whatever the case may be. And so that is the motivation behind why we call tonight's show just OVIS It, because we want to get to a point that once it's been OVIS'd, that the information you have is trustworthy and verifiable, and it's on the blockchain and it cannot be changed. So again, you can read more about that and our mission and our goals and about all of us on our website and our community at ovis.news. And before we wrap it up, because we wanted to keep this short and sweet, just let you guys know who we are, where we're coming from, the who, what, when, where, why, and what our community is all about. I just want everybody, if you guys want to add a few parting words before we sign off for the night and bring back the disco ball and the disco music before we wrap it up for the night, and let you know that we will now be here every night between 6 and 7 o'clock on this platform from Studio 6, and on Sunday nights from our other live platform with our partner Zap Life. If you download their app, you'll be able to catch us live every Sunday night between 6 and 7, same time, where we explore all types of areas within fact-checking and misinformation and disinformation. So you guys go ahead and leave everybody who's watching us tonight with a few words of your own and why OVIS is so important to you, and we'll wrap up the show.
If you love freedom and democracy, just OVIS It.
Yes. That's right. Just OVIS It. Ariel, Karam, Tracy,
I could say a word.
and
I could say a word.
there you are, Tracy. You guys, again, thank you so much for spending time with us and being on the show tonight. We really appreciate it. All of us are together because we share a common goal, and that goal is OVIS and the OVIS community. So thanks again. We'd love to see you again next Wednesday, same time, and we'd love to see you on Sundays on our Zap Life platform to explore all the things we talked about tonight. We really appreciate you and everybody with OVIS here tonight. I can speak for them, I believe, when I say we all appreciate you and are grateful that you're here with us. And we encourage you to go to ovis.news and sign up and be a part of our waiting list and be an early member, an inaugural member of the community. It's definitely worth your while. And hopefully you might even stand to gain financially from being an inaugural member and being able to get some tokens very early on in our endeavor.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you.